Welcome to Torah Smash, the podcast for nerdy Jews, where our lives of Jewish learning collide with our love of nerd culture. In each episode, we discuss what we lovingly call a Torah Smash, which we have defined as a beautiful collision of one thing from the world of Judaism with another from nerd culture. I'm Ethan Lane Miller, and joining me today are
Barack Malkin.
RDY.
Hey friends, how's it going?
Hey.
We doing
Always
okay?
good to be. Yes.
Good.
Very happy today.
Yeah, excited for this lead-in.
Yes. So the lead-in today is Pokemon FireRed and LeafGreen versions. So, just starting there, what are your reactions to that?
So,
Are those the beginnings of the video game?
no, so those go ahead, because I don't know. Fire Red and Leaf Green were not the ones that I've played. Is that the brand new one on Nintendo on the Switch 2?
No, but yes, but no.
Okay, cool.
Okay, I'm lost because I thought
Let me
yeah. I knew that in the original Pokemon video game you started with like colors. That's about it. That's all.
Yeah. So
Wait, hold on. RDY, have you played Pokemon?
I have played the card game and I have played Pokemon Go.
Oh, but you never played like the Game Boy or
No.
Oh, Pokemon Snap?
No, I've
No,
played
you
Marvel
like-
Snap.
No. That's a very different game.
So to talk about Pokemon Fire Red and Leaf Green, we need to go back in time a little bit. Exactly.
Whoa,
30
Ethan, when did you get here?
I've been here the whole time.
So 30 years ago, February 27th, 1996, Pokemon Red and Green version were released in Japan. Okay, so that was Game Boy back in Japan.
It was red and green?
It was Barack because after those games came out, they released a updated version called Pokemon Blue version.
Yeah, I was only familiar with red and blue in the US.
Well, because what happened then was when they took it to the US, the versions that they did were red and blue version.
Yeah.
But they weren't based off of the red and green version from Japan. They took Pokemon Blue version from Japan and then split that and made Pokemon Red version and Blue version.
Wait, you said they took Pokemon Blue and split that into red and blue? Did you say right?
They took the Japanese Blue version.
Oh, you didn't say
Blue or green?
Okay, hold on. We can do this. We can do this.
Okay, because you said that in Japan it was red and green, but there
Correct.
was also a blue somewhere?
Yes.
Okay. Oh, you didn't say that. You skipped that.
Yes. So in Japan, they first had red and green version.
Yes.
And then later they released a special blue version. It was like upgraded.
Okay.
When they brought Pokemon to North America, what they did is instead of basing it off of the original red and green version from Japan, they took the upgraded Japanese blue version and split that in half essentially, or used that as the base for Pokemon Red version and Pokemon Blue version in America. So that came out in September 28th of 1998. How are we following so far? How are we doing?
I think so.
Yeah.
Okay. That comes out on the Game Boy. So
and what it was a video game. But what was it? Like what kind of video game?
It's a top-down game when you're in kind of the, I don't know, I guess I'd call it the overworld. And essentially you are collecting and training up to 150 pocket monsters, abbreviated to Pokemon. And they don't die. They
what was in English? It was Poketo Mansuta?
Something like that.
Something like that.
That's not English.
That's not English.
No, it's not English.
It's Japanese.
It's like collecting and battle and some strategy. Like you can learn up to 4 moves, and Pokemon have different types. So there's like rock, paper, scissors mechanics of like strengths and weaknesses. And, some Pokemon are stronger than the others. And there's a story that goes with it too. So that is the real quick version of what Pokemon is about.
I do know one more thing about Pokemon because 2 weeks ago on Friday night, I declared it National Pokemon Day, and it was actually the 30th anniversary of Pokemon.
Well, don't get ahead of me, RDY.
Sorry, I only know one thing. I was excited.
Pokemon Red and Blue come out in America. It's on the Game Boy. Like there's no color to it. Like if you put the cartridge in a Game Boy Color, everything is like tinted one particular color. So this was very, very like old school, even though I played it in black and white when it came out. So we jump ahead a little bit. We get into the era of the Game Boy Advance. So there's color, there's more technology, there are some very basic wireless features that are starting to come out. And Game Freak and the Pokemon Company and Nintendo decide to take and re-release the versions of Pokemon called Fire Red and Leaf Green version. So they take the story, they take the setup of the Japanese games, Red and Green, they freshen it up, they give it modern by 2004 standards, color, some new features that were introduced later on. They kind of retroactively polish up those games. And they get released in Japan in January of 2004, and then North America in September of 2004. So they, back in 2004, remade the original games and made it more polished for a modern audience. Okay. So we had Pokemon Red and Green in Japan, and then Blue version in Japan, which became Pokemon Red and Blue in America. And then a few years later, we have Pokemon FireRed and LeafGreen that come out in Japan and in North America. And before you ask, even though there was no green version in America, they kept the name Leaf Green. So RDY, you said it. We just had the 30th anniversary of Pokemon. You want to know what Nintendo did?
They re-released the green and red versions?
They re-released Fire Red and Leaf Green on the Nintendo Switch.
Oh, that's so fun. Really?
Yes.
Ooh, that's fun.
Is Barack about to make a purchase?
Well, I know that I don't know if that's the one my friend has been playing. I don't think it is because they're playing with new starter Pokemon. So it's got to be a different Pokemon game.
So what we have, if we go backwards on this, a couple weeks ago when we're recording this episode, Nintendo released a re-release of something that was a re-release of something that was made into blue version, which was originally the red and green version in Japan. So that is the lead into the episode.
So they re-released a re-release of something that was released here once but re-released in Japan twice.
No, what they did is they re-released something that was a remake of a game that was only released in Japan, but was another version that was then made in America.
When will it be now?
So we're in now.
Yeah.
So that's my nerdy lead in. So I've been playing Leaf Green version since it came out.
30 years ago?
No. It's like
I just wasn't sure which one you were talking about.
It's a fair question, actually.
The new Leaf Green.
Correct, on the Switch. So that's my lead in.
So you've been playing it for like 2 weeks.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think
that's your whole lead in?
You ready?
Yeah.
I've got this. Ethan, topic smash.
Yeah.
Reform Judaism.
Ooh, I like that.
God, that's not what I thought of, but I think I'm gonna say yes. Like, let's do it.
Like the platforms of Reform Judaism?
No, just the fact that Reform Judaism is reform, not reformed, because it's constantly changing and updating itself. Right?
Reforming Judaism.
Sure.
Let's do it. Actually, I kind of want to do that instead.
Wait, what was no. RDY, do you have a smash idea?
I'm still trying color blindness.
No.
Is that afflicting to Jews at a proportionate level?
I mean, I would assume it's a proportionate level.
I guess disproportionate level. I mean,
So let me tell you what my like original like scaffolding and idea was here, and we can like kind of go off in both directions if we want. But my thought was like, how do we? And actually, I suppose I can tie it into Barack's idea. But my thought was like, how do we take the same stories and continually make them relevant for new audiences?
Yeah.
Which I don't know that I like can make super concise, but like Barack, you're right that like a lot of that is like the thesis of Reform Judaism, I would say.
Yeah, it's why we get a new prayer book every 20 years.
If that long.
Right.
The time between prayer books is steadily decreasing, and most places are just making their own now. But that's getting in the weeds. The idea that Judaism is a living, breathing entity is not limited to Reform Judaism. The first reformer was Yehuda Hanassi, who wrote the Talmud to make the Judaism of the Bible, which was the only document they had at that point, relevant. And so he wrote the Mishnah. The Mishnah was the first major reform of Judaism to help make it relevant for their day, with no temple, and with people who still remembered the temple and who wanted to go back to the temple, and people who remembered the temple and didn't want to go back, and people who had no memory and didn't care, and how to merge all of those people under one people. They created the Mishnah to make it relevant, but we've always been doing that.
Well, you're totally right, RDY. You're totally right. Even
I love it when you say that.
I'll say it one more time. You're totally right, RDY. It's not just Reform Jews that grapple with these sort of questions. Orthodox traditional Jews have to answer questions about how do we interact and intersect with technology.
Yeah.
It's like when I have to talk to people about Sabbath mode on like certain devices on things. Like it's a real thing that we contend with.
It's not just for elevators, folks.
It's not just for elevators.
Judaism, not just for elevators anymore.
A Sabbath mode, not just for elevators.
Oh, sure, fine.
I often say that all Jews are Reform Jews, just some do it slower.
I imagine some Jews wouldn't agree with that.
Oh, no. I don't think they would. But
yeah.
But I'm okay with that.
But I think what you're speaking to is kind of what I'm saying is that like just by living in society and the advancement of technology over the last thousands of years, you have to at least answer these questions, not necessarily saying that you are incorporating it, but you have to have an answer.
Yeah. Yeah. And
a good question.
And well, people want their questions answered in ways that Google is able to, and ChatGPT is able to, and the encyclopedia is able to, but that Judaism intentionally is not able to. I just last night I was at an event through the new forming synagogues, and it was a young adults event at a brew pub. We had Torah on tap, and the whole theme.
Nice.
I asked our event planner, like, what should I prepare? And she was like, nothing. They're going to come with questions. And so I'm like, okay, well, maybe I'll prepare a little something just in case they don't ask enough questions. They asked amazing questions. And I was sitting across the table. Yeah, it was great. Fantastic event. I was sitting across the table from an obviously well-read, intelligent, Orthodox Jewish woman who is using all of this very liberal styled communication, very, very like a lot of flow with everybody's pronouns, took to it real easily, clearly a part of their world, and yet also declaratively Orthodox. And while I never asked her because I wasn't comfortable after one meeting doing so, I was very curious as to how her Orthodox Judaism informs or affects her understanding of the modern world. And we did talk about like polyamory and trans people and how different sections of Judaism might treat people who we used to see as different, and today hopefully we just see as people. And she responded amazingly well using her knowledge of Orthodox Judaism. And sometimes I would support it with Reform Judaism's point of view, but it never seemed to me that we were at dispute with one another.
That's really cool.
Yeah, it was fantastic.
So, the central question that I came to this with was, what are the Jewish stories that we are constantly reinventing, but it's still essentially the same sort of story. So a little over a month ago, we had our Purim episode come out. And so I think that Purim lends itself well to this question, where we are every year reinventing the Purim story with a new different theme and a different spiel on top of it. But I also think when you think about like nerd culture, one of the things that a decision that Marvel made with Spider-Man was there have been so many origin stories lately for the MCU, they just skipped the origin story altogether because it's been told so many times.
Yeah, we know it.
No, I disagree. Oh, I disagree on both these points.
Ooh, do it.
One, I don't think we are reinventing the Purim story every year, right? In relation to your smash of redoing red and green, they did that to improve upon the original storyline, but we're not doing anything to change and improve upon the Purim story. We are just viewing it through a different lens each year.
So
We're
so
not,
so
nothing changes with the basic elements of it.
so to extend that analogy, you're saying this is more like the Nintendo Switch re-release of the old games. There's some polish
Yeah,
done, but
yeah,
it is
yeah,
the
but
same
it's the
mechanics,
same
the
thing.
same
Nothing's different.
art,
Yeah. And
everything.
then on the
Okay.
second side, you had said, because I think I argued this when we did Spider-Man No Way Home. You had said that they skipped the origin movie and just gave us him with the powers, and I argued that the Spider-Man trilogy we got was a three-movie origin story, that it ended with Aunt May dying and him getting his original blue suit, like red and blue suit, and the Uncle Ben speech from Aunt May. So I viewed his three movies as his full-length origin story minus Spider Bite.
Well,
Like he wasn't Spider-Man in the first movie. He became really Spider-Man by the end of the third movie.
I think you're proving Ethan's point, actually, Barack, because you are reinterpreting
Mm.
the Spider-Man narrative to show your point, which I think is a great way to read the Spider-Man trilogy.
Yeah,
But I also
agree to disagree.
I also agree with Ethan that I think what he's talking about is the spider bite. That as far as the origin
Sure.
story.
Sure, I get it. Yeah, I hear you.
And I might have taken us down a rabbit hole I didn't intend to. I think for Spider-Man, we are going to hash this out a little bit once we see what the fourth movie is. I think that will somewhat help us reframe what were the previous three movies.
I have an
Yeah,
answer.
we might have to go back to this topic when they re-release the
Sure.
Spider-Man that nobody knows.
Yeah.
I've joked with one of my sisters, like when the MCU was releasing Spider-Man, I said, "Oh, they're doing Spider-Man 1-3." And then they're doing Spider-Man 2-3, but then they're doing Spider-Man 3-2. Now they're doing Spider-Man 4-1.
I have a
My head hurts.
I have a Jewish
Artie Wise
connection.
shaking his head. Sorry,
Yeah.
go ahead.
And
Barack.
Spider-Man's red blue.
Yeah. I have a Jewish connection for this in terms of something that we are taking and redoing, shifting some elements from what they were to be reinterpreted for the modern. And I would say a lot of, at least in the reform movement, Friday night services. I think that from what it was 50 years, let's say 30 years ago, even, right? When we were kids, services today drastically different than they were 30 years ago, but a lot of the core elements are there. But the way that you're getting engaged in those services is very different. And while I think service attendance has gone down, I think that the purpose and the what's received is still there, and maybe part of the want to reinterpret and reform services is for more engagement for the younger generation, for the newer generation. But I do think the way that people have looked at services and or clergy have looked at and decided how to create a new Shabbat experience lines up with what you're talking about with Pokemon Red Green becoming Red Blue becoming Red Fire Green Leaf.
Yeah, that's cool.
Do you disagree, RDY?
No, I'm thinking of a different thing.
Oh, okay.
I'm thinking about how the prayer service changing is not only, no, I guess it is. It's not a disagreement. It's a maybe a supplement. I'm thinking about how with the services changing and how they changed was not only to relate to young people, although typically older people are used to the way services are and therefore most resistant to any change in the service. But the services were more about speaking to the modern adult. Like the first change that I'm aware of was in the 70s and 80s when they took out the masculine language. They took out the these and the thous and the he's and made it you and your and God's. Not everyone took out all the male language, but they took out the Elizabethan language. And then in the 90s, they totally egalitarianized the prayer book with the Gates of Gray, which was meant to be a temporary prayer book that lasted something like 6, 10 years, something like that. And some places still have them. And moving to the book they have today was put together by committee. And do you know? I refer to Mishkan Tefillah like I think it's a great prayer book, but I was trained to use the prayer book, and most Jews are not trained to use any prayer book, and most Jews I think Mishkan Tefillah is a platypus, um, and a platypus is a horse made by committee.
I've never heard that description.
I mean, I just through like so many years of being a Jewish professional have gotten a little bit of training on like how you use the prayer book. And it's so interesting because you're right. There is a little bit of a how you use the prayer book. And like, I'm thinking specifically of like the left side and the right side and what it is actually kind of puzzle piecing together.
Yeah, I remember my congregation before I moved to California, at least 2 or 3 high holidays were spent with some introductory how do we use this book. Even yeah, I remember that for a while that there was this like, just so you know, the left side has this we're going to read from this side and the other side has a poem. If you don't want to read the Hebrew, you can read the poem. Sometimes we'll read the poem, you could read the Hebrew. Like it was very different from just flip the page, flip the page, flip the page.
So there's something else that got me thinking a little bit, and that was actually RDY talking about Torah on tap.
Mm-hmm.
Would it be fair to say that that's not a program that synagogues would offer 30 years ago?
Oh, that's a good question. I think 30 years ago they would have thought it was cool, but 50 years ago there would have been angst about like, oh, you're going to encourage young people to drink besides kiddush wine. I think there was that angst that just kind of existed, but I think even in the 90s people were up for it.
I think in
So
the 90s there were a lot of I would call generic the things that I think the programs that people are still stuck on are like, a large bingo night or a creative titled fundraiser, right? Those were big in the 90s in terms of how do we re-engage. And so that's still happening. They're just and sometimes same topics, different topics, same names, whatever. But I agree that there was I do remember there being some like creative Torah study pieces, but it rarely moved outside of the building. The building was still core to the community 30 years
Yeah.
ago. Whereas today, there's a whole lot of like breaking the walls down kind of programming.
And if you really dug deep at 90s programming, it was the same as the 80s programming and the 70s programming, just with exciting names or themes.
Yeah.
Well, the reason I asked is because when I think about Pokemon, there's so much more than just these remakes of Red and Green or Red and Blue, but there's subsequent versions and generations of games. So after Red and Blue came out in America, they went and made actual sequel games, Gold and Silver, which happened to be my favorites. But the fundamental formula remains the same. You are training and leveling up these Pokemon and you're collecting them. You get more to collect. When you really drill down to it, the general formula hasn't changed, but it has been continually modernized and updated to give new offerings to people, perhaps like Torah on tap, as a way to engage in your Judaism.
Nice. I like that.
If my memory serves correct, is that the game came out first, beginning of the year, and then like a year later the cards came out, and like a year later the manga came out, and like they kept doing these new things to keep it fun and exciting. And when the cards came out, it was really mostly collectible. It was not the battle game that you know today. that did develop slowly over time, but originally the kids were just using them as a collectible thing. Like I still have my binder of Pokemon cards from that summer that I would like collect and trade with the other kids.
I'm trying to think of like a series of games or something in nerd culture that is this frequently refreshed and updated. And I know there are
Zelda?
things. Hmm?
Zelda?
I was going to say
So
Zelda.
right, so like there are things out there. Like there's a lot of there's a lot out there for Zelda. I think there's Final Fantasy.
Mm. Baldur's Gate.
Here's
Yeah.
the thing is that we're mentioning a lot of properties that stuck primarily in the video game area, whereas Pokemon had the game, the cards, the manga, like they were engaging in many areas. Zelda had the video game, and then it had that like one seasoned cartoon. Um, but I don't think it did much beyond that. And so the only things I would think that compare to this would be some of the Hasbro properties, like G.I. Joe or Transformers that had the action figures, they had the comic books, they had the TV show. Like they had a lot of different elements, mostly as a marketing. Like I know for like that Transformers, sort of stole the pieces from Japan, these transformational piece elements, and then created the TV show to sell the toys.
But they took that idea from G.I. Joe, who you mentioned.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
G.I. Joe did it first, and Transformers and He-Man followed the idea.
Yeah, very similar. But right, so that was most marketing, and so it's possible it's absolutely Pokemon was doing this for marketing, just in a different way. Right, and then Pokemon got the TV show, right? It had a lot of different elements, like a typical toy company. Transformers didn't have a video game as far as I can remember. I don't think G.I. Joe got one either. Um,
Not that I'm aware of.
right?
There was Contra, but that's different.
Yeah. And so that's the only element where Pokemon differs from all those other typical Hasbro properties or other toy properties. Like that's a
Marvel had the action figures, the comic books, the movies, the TV shows, the video game Marvel versus Street Fighter.
oh, they
There
had the
are
arcade game,
board
yeah.
games, yeah, where they just kept redoing it, but it never felt like they were reimagining the product or re-releasing something
Yeah.
until the movies.
Yeah.
And then it only felt that way to those of us who are familiar with the storyline, having read it in the comic books.
Well, I would say the Saturday morning cartoons in the 90s were doing that too. There was in 90s and 2000s, right?
Yeah.
They were reimagining some like Wolverine and Friends and Spider-Man and His Amazing Friends
Mhm.
like they were
Oh, Muppet Babies is a reimagining for a different crowd.
yeah. Yeah, I don't know if they did as good of a job. It was fine.
No, but also Muppets has re-released twice.
Oh, they did. Yeah, that's true. I'd say more than twice. Right? They had a TV show that ran for 2 seasons, and then they just had another one that ran for 1 season. They
Mhm.
had the Muppet Babies. They did a new one of the Muppet Babies.
And there's a new Muppet show that has only one episode that I'm aware of,
Man, I would love a Muppets video game. Is there a Muppets?
right?
I don't think there's one. I would do that.
Oh, what an
Oh
interesting thing for us to
God,
Google.
I want to play as Fozzie so bad. Or you play as chef and the Swedish chef and you just throw fish.
This wait, the
No,
Swedish chef wasn't the guy who threw
no,
fish,
it wasn't the guy who threw fish. Oh, who threw the fish? He had like
like an Italian name.
yeah.
There are three Muppet video games.
Oh,
Muppet. Oh no, more than that. So PS1 had Muppet Race Mania
I
and
didn't have a
Muppet
PS.
Monster Adventure.
I didn't have a PlayStation.
For the PC, there's Muppet Treasure Island and Muppet Adventure Chaos at the Carnival. The PS2 and GameCube had Muppets Party Cruise, and the PlayStation Vita, which I'd never heard of, had the Muppets Movie Adventure, and Game Boy had a pinball, and yeah,
Mm.
and in a mini golf game that I play on the VR, there is a Fraggle.
Oh, that's fun.
Not there's like you can turn your avatar into Fraggle characters.
Oh, that's
That's
cool.
fun.
So something
Wow.
something that also just clicked for me. I said my favorite Pokemon versions were Gold and Silver version. RDY, I guess, and Barak, how would you describe Mishkan HaNefesh, the books that we use in Reform synagogues on high holidays, or at least the most recent versions of those books? What colors are those?
Silver and gold.
Yeah, so there's Judaism silver and Judaism gold at the high holidays.
That's awesome. And to me, it's backwards too. I feel like Yom Kippur should be gold and Rosh Hashanah should be silver because you're like developing one into the other. But they made Rosh Hashanah gold and Yom Kippur silver. I don't know why.
I I wish there was. It would be nice if we could have it as like Pokemon, like blue and white for Jewish colors, the Israeli flag and stuff. Can I ask this? If it was Pokemon blue and white, what would your starting Pokemon be? In like
Golden
as, okay, great. As like your starter Pokemon, yeah, Golden that's nice.
Or the two of you.
We have to choose one.
Oh,
Yeah, that's the whole thing.
You choose one to start with.
Cantor Natalie Young.
Oh,
There's so many answers I could give that would involve me having to do more editing on this episode.
I have a good answer. I think I have my starter Pokemon would be the physical representation of youth group.
Oh, what if the starting choices were God, Torah, and Israel?
Okay.
You know,
I think.
Yeah, go ahead.
I think I would go. I think I would go Torah.
I think I'd probably start Torah too.
Dude, I'd go God all the way.
Fascinating.
Interesting.
All the power?
Have you guys got not God shopping? There's another great program where you lay out like all the elements of Judaism, and you're like, okay, class, remove half of these. What do you need to keep? And you're okay, remove half of these. Remove like another 5, and you like cut until they have this really meaningful discussion of, what are the core things that you need to make sure always stay in sort of when you're practicing your Judaism or as part of your Jewish life.
Yeah, it's the desert island. You can only have 10 things, and oh no, it's only 5. Yeah, it's the same program.
Yeah. So that's what we're doing here. Is you can only just jumping to one.
Yeah, I would start with God.
That's great.
I often find myself alone in this declaration with colleagues. That for me it all boils down to God, and for a lot of them it all boils down to Torah. And clearly the two of you.
At some point you'll realize you're wrong.
I don't think there is a wrong.
No, I was joking.
That was a very like one of my favorite lines from the Indiana Jones series is when River Phoenix of blessed memory, Indiana Jones, runs to go find his Boy Scout troop, and they're gone, and he goes, "Everyone's lost but me."
Yeah.
Yes. Before you gave us that great question, Barak, I was really chewing it over, and I think I would go Golem.
Oh, that's fun because he's actually a Pokemon.
Yeah.
Oh, cool.
There are several. I mean, there's at least one real like Golem Pokemon.
It goes from Geodude to Graveler to Golem.
Oh, see, I mean, it's literally called Golem, but that wasn't even the one I was thinking of. There's one that in my mind that more looks like an actual Golem, and I'm putting it in the chat. It's called Golurk.
Oh, that must be a more modern one.
So I did the Pokemon personality test thing once and got Alakazam.
Oh, I could see that.
I don't know what it means.
It's a pretty powerful and famous one. It's got some facial hair going on.
I like that evolution a lot.
Carries spoons, which I liked because and I'm a big Tick fan.
Yeah, that's good. I enjoy probably that evolution naming out of all of the Pokemon ever because the baby is Abra, the next evolution is Kadabra, and the biggest one is Alakazam. I think that's fantastic. Cool. That's so fun.
I do like how they can evolve, much like the re-releases I hope evolved in their creation as they moved in time.
I mean, it feels like we're all just talking about there's the evolution of the Pokemon in the game, the evolution of the games themselves, and the evolution and different interpretations of Pokemon and Judaism.
Yeah. And it also boils down to the quote that I think Barack used in one of the episodes where from Ben Bogbog, that you turn it and turn it because everything is in it. The reason you turn it and go back to, and it is Torah, and the reason you go back to it again and again and again is because the stories in the text don't change. They're the same year after year after year, but we are not. And we see new things in it based on our experience of the world, and we realize new things in it based on our growing maturity. So, and it's much the same way with humanity. Like, humanity never changes, only technology changes. Our basic needs, our desires, our instincts, always the same.
That's great.
RDY steps down off of the pulpit.
That was great. I think this has been a great conversation. Anybody have any
Thank you.
closing thoughts or things we haven't touched upon yet?
First question: When you start the original Pokemon, and you've got the choice of Charmander, Bulbasaur, and Squirtle, who do you choose? Who's your starter?
Bulbasaur.
I choose Squirtle.
In that case, I will choose the other one. Charmander?
Charmander's the
Yeah,
other
look at us.
guy.
We're a well-balanced team.
That's
I
fun.
have a minor memory.
Yeah. Any favorite Pokemon? Does anybody have a favorite Pokemon?
Oh gosh. I mean, there are favorite Pokemon and then Pokemon that would be described as like Ethan staples. I mean, favorite Pokemon, Venusaur.
Is Venusaur the third evolution or the base character?
Third of Bulbasaur.
Ah, okay.
Yeah. I think the Pokemon that my sisters would say are kind of iconic Ethan would be Venusaur, Typhlosion, Manectric.
I am
There's
aware.
some more
I
from the modern ones.
Yeah, I don't know after like 151. I
am
know
aware of one called Mr. Mime.
Yes. Yeah.
Corviknight's another one. That's a more newish one that is very Ethan.
Is Mr. Mime the third evolution?
So complicate. That's
After
a complicated
Hushy and
question.
Shushy?
It's a complicated question. Originally, no, but they went back and literally added a pre-evolution, and now there's also a
Mime Junior.
Yes, there's Mime Junior.
Is
There's
that
Mr.
real?
Mime. Yes.
I thought I had made that up.
Nope. You were completely correct. There's Mime Junior, Mr. Mime, but there's also Mr. Rhyme.
Oh, who would probably be Mr. Mime's nemesis? Because rhyming is done talking.
I mean, it's not quite a nemesis. It is an evolution of another form of Mr. Mime.
Mr. Mime is such a weird Pokemon. I will
Mr. Mime would not make for a good podcaster.
He would not. He would not. I was looking back through the 150 because that's really, I know those much more.
Is that how many there are?
No. God, there's so many.
RDY. Starting out, there were 150. It is well over 1,000 now.
Yeah.
Oh, they've multiplied.
Yeah.
Here's what I would say is that I was a big fan, and there's a little bit of confusion here, and I'll just name them from the front. I loved that they had Hitmonchan and Hitmonlee because they were named after Jackie Chan and Bruce Lee.
That's cool.
The issue is they reverse named them, it feels like. That Hitmonchan is known for punching, which Bruce Lee was known for, and Hitmonlee for kicking, which Jackie Chan was more known for kicking than punching. And for some reason, Bruce Lee had like the 1 inch
the
punch.
1 inch punch.
Yeah.
Yes.
So the fact that they gave
I don't know that I would say Jackie Chan is known for kicking.
Why not give the punching one to Lee? It just felt weird to me. But as a child, as somebody who loved Jackie Chan, thoroughly lunged onto Hitmonlee, knowing that he was probably the Jackie Chan version of it. But I also really liked Geodude when I was growing up, and I don't know why. I liked Geodude, and Jolteon.
I like geocaching.
Mm-hmm. which is sort of like Pokemon Go.
Hey, it is.
Yeah, look at that. Everything comes full circle here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, this episode definitely went in directions I wasn't expecting, but that was great.
Yeah.
Thank you, Ethan.
Yeah.
Thank you for being such great co-hosts. That'll do it for this episode of Torah Smash. Our fiscal sponsor is Jewish Creativity International. Our theme music was created by Sean Fogel. You can check out Sean's bands and studio work at www.thesleepywest.com. If you enjoyed today's episode, be sure to rate and review us wherever you listen. It helps others find us and is an excellent way to support the podcast. We want to hear from you and continue today's nerdy discussion. Go to torasmash.com to find out where to connect with us online, purchase swag from our store, support us with a donation, find previous episodes, and more. And, dear listeners, if you haven't caught the other 104 episode Torah Smash, make sure you go back and listen. You really got to catch them all.
That's weird. I don't think I've known anybody who sleeps with their Pokemon.
You sure?
Maybe, probably not.
Oh, this part's getting cut.
No, that's good. I thought that was fine. It's fine.
I'd like the Pokemon.
Okay, that's getting cut.